Chapter 197. Part 4 of 4. We appeared once more in the hive, this time in a long room. Moonbeam was there with the scientist changeling who showed off the train. They also had two randos with them. The nail gun they used to hammer the lines in was on a table in front of them all. I saw what this thing could do to rock point blank, Mooney said. What would it do to flesh at range? I had a feeling you would ask that question eventually, the scientist said. Using a sharpened rail nail, it's capable of penetrating chitin from up to 5 to 10 meters away, depending on a few factors. The main problem is the weight of the nail. Could you improve the design to make something more viable? Likely, but... Well, we were given all the memories you received from the human. Including the memories about war. I believe the weapons most humans used were designed differently. He said they didn't have magic and everything in his memories supported that claim, so they had to use something available on the planet. And since they had enough of it to spare for war, it had to be commonly available. The list of things you can combine to create explosions is fairly short. I think we'd be better off experimenting with that line of research. Explosions. If you want to study those, you will need a research center above ground. I won't have you risking any cave-ins down here. But why pick those, of all things? The common handheld weapon is something Nav referred to as a gun. The memories he gave us were vague, but included some of them being fired. Every time the trigger is pulled, there's a burst of fire from the barrel and two things eject. One is the round, the dangerous part that comes with the explosion. The other is a small piece of metal, I believe something used to contain an explosive combination of some kind. If that deduction is correct, the gun works by using the energy from the explosion to propel a round at speeds fast enough to kill. If we can figure out which materials they used, we could duplicate the effects. Makes sense, and I have reasons to believe what you say is accurate. Put all of this to paper, and include all of the explosive combinations you're aware of. You'll continue researching the fusion of magic and technology, a field we will now call Magi-Tech, and someone else will take on that project. You don't wish your best mind to work on creating weapons for the hive, the scientist asked. If we advance too quickly, Nav will become upset with me. He's more valuable as an ally than an enemy, as I'm sure you've no doubt realized. He may have given us all of his useful memories, but more tidbits might sneak out. Why not just steal everything of value in his mind? We'd advance so quickly that we'd become unstoppable. I'm afraid that isn't an option, Mooney said. And that is the end of that discussion. Now, let me see this device in action. I want to see it fired at a target. As you wish, the chick said. She waved the two random changelings up to the table and the memory finally faded. Well, I can't say I'm surprised, I sighed. I'm sure Gilda and Celestia were doing it too. You knew this would happen when you started spreading technology, Fear said. Was the thought of advancing the races so tempting that you risk signing the death warrants of millions? Think of the benefits of a world filled with magic tech contraptions. The possibilities for killing are endless, but so are the possibilities for utility. It's up to individuals to use what we invent as they see fit. Yes, it will result in the deaths of many. But it will also result in lives everywhere getting better overall, which will in turn increase the population. With luck and planning, it'll be more of a net gain. Besides, we get to control the real weapons, Taya said with a smug grin. Also that, I said with a nod. All the golems and magic artillery I'm planning on making are going to be solely under my control. Is that supposed to be comforting? Love asked. I mean, it's supposed to be, but I understand why some wouldn't agree. I might decide to make a few other things, depending on my mood. Definitely an automatic crossbow mounted on the back of a flying chariot. I'll also load up a bunch of small airships with magic cannons. That means you could also load a small magic cannon onto a chariot, Fear said. Assuming there are runes on it to absorb the recoil, it could be a mobile fort buster. Might be difficult to aim, but that does sound fun. I'll brainstorm ideas with Jack later to see what's viable and what isn't. I can't believe you waited so long to do this, Taya said. I didn't have access to an army until just recently. Sure, I theoretically could have retrofitted Celestia's army before I took over, but I don't know if I would have liked what she'd do with the power. Because your plans are clearly so much better, Fear said, rolling her eyes. Don't judge me, you are me. So, what's the takeaway? I assume just that Moon-E is making weapons. You assume wrong, thankfully, Love said. So we get to be useful again. Just as you defend Moonbeam when others insult her, she defends you when others attack you. I did notice that, I said. That's definitely promising. Although it is kinda the bare minimum, Taya said. And doesn't it go against the spirit of what you ask of her? I knew I couldn't stop her from making weapons. It's whatever. And besides, if I end up choosing her, it'll just benefit me anyway. Any other takeaways? Nope, Fear said. Cool. Love, would you mind a quick kiss? I'd prefer a long one, but a quick one would be fine. That was all the permission I needed. I leaned in to kiss my precious bug queen. She giggled and kissed back. I let it last until I started to get lightheaded, then pulled back. She sighed in disappointment. All right, I'm ready to move on, I said. Actually, I do have one question, Fear asked. Do you want to talk about the time you ravished Moonbeam as a tentacle monster? You did what now? Taya asked. She turned me into a changeling for various reasons. So while I was a changeling, I covered myself in tentacles and used them to plug almost every single one of her holes. She loved it, but told me I was never allowed to do it again because it made her feel so sore. And no, I really don't want to talk about it. Why would you even ask? To see if you'd explain it to your filly, Fear asked with a smirk. Tentacles. Taya whispered, her eyes wide. Nice and slimy. I lost count of the number of times she squirted. It was pretty hot. Now, let's move on. As you Desi. Why do you do this? Taya shouted. You know how it makes me feel. I don't, actually. How does it make you feel? Confused, frustrated, and slightly jealous. You blew me off the entire time you were down there to do weird things to the queen. And the weeks before and after that, I cuddled with you all the time as we flew here and there on the ship. I can't afford to give you all of my time. Besides, you don't have nearly as many holes as her, so tentacles wouldn't be as much fun. Basically, don't worry about it. And also don't ask for more information when the answers so obviously include things you don't want to hear. Telling me not to worry about it doesn't really help, Mommy. Especially when you comment about my holes. I bet I'd have just as much fun with your tentacles as she did. Nuh-uh, because I wouldn't consent, I said. Which means you couldn't have any fun at all. What you choose to do with others is no business of mine, of course. Taya glared up at Love. Does she really love me? Yes. She just doesn't lust for you. You are, after all, her cute little filly. And you always will be, now. Your mother will never see you as a grown mare, someone worthy of her romantic attentions. It's a good thing this is exactly what you wanted, or I might be worried it would upset you. Yet, being a child for all time would be absolute torture, to me, I said. Never being able to have any responsibilities, never able to make your own choices, never able to decide your own fate, never able to have any kind of long-lasting relationships. I really don't know what you see in it. Wait, why can't I have relationships? Taya asked. Oh, you can, Fear said. But what normal colt is going to want to date a filly that never ages and can't have foals? After about 5 or so years, they'd probably start to feel a little weird. Your only option is another immortal, and those don't exactly grow on trees. Especially since it would have to be a male immortal near your age. Basically, becoming Nav's eternally means you're reliant on her for life and any chance of returning to normality is gone. It was, by every metric I can think of, an absolutely terrible idea. So hopefully you see something literally everyone else can't, because even the elemental who allowed it only did so because she knew it would be an awful idea that would make Nav look bad to everyone else. At some point during that tirade, Taya's mouth dropped. I'd like to wait until the end to kill any of them, I said. So please don't flip shit and murder her yet. Have you ever wanted something so much that you'd do anything to get it, even if everyone around you says it would be bad for you? Taya slowly asked. No, I said. Yes you have, Love said. You've been addicted to sex several times. Oh. Then I guess yes. But what you're talking about is different from an addiction. What you wanted was to be by my side for all time and you were too impatient to wait for a better time. What I wanted was a relief from the never-ending psychological torment that I've been going through since arriving. I probably should have used different methods to achieve my goal, but you should have used your head a little and waited until you were older. Instead, here we are talking about it again. I vote we wait until we actually get there to continue the discussion. Fine, Taya huffed. Then let's kick it, fake flow, I said. As you command, fake human, my guide replied. Her eyes lit up and we took off. We appeared in the center of the worst mold infestation I've ever seen. Thankfully, there wasn't any smell. Blossom and Fleur were sitting on couches that were more mold than fabric. Please tell me this is the tree thing, I said. It's the mushroom thing, actually, my guide said. You were infected by this point. Oh right, when that mushroom thing left the hive, I got some of its spores. This must have been right after I introduced them. Fleur discovered Blossom's secret and was scared out of her mind. Blossom was just as afraid. I forced them to meet each other and they agreed to work together. As if someone hit play, the memory started. I've never actually been to one of the fancy parties, Blossom slowly said, doing her best not to look at Fleur. Aside from a single gala, but I spent a lot of it helping Nav. Most of them are awfully droll, Fleur said. So to be honest, you likely weren't missing much. With me and Nav at your side, any event you attend will be well worth it. She just left Canterlot. And I have several parties planned for whenever she happens to get back. I'll do my best to ensure the three of us can be together in at least one of them. But until she returns, I'm confident I can find some way for you to have fun. Our resident human is correct, you are quite adorable. I'm sure we could find you all kinds of suitors. Not interested, Blossom immediately replied. I can't risk any getting close enough to learn what I am. You already have, silly. And neither of us have told Aniponi, have we? My emotions are muted, I can't have foals, and sensations of the flesh are meaningless to me. Your emotions may be muted, but they're enough for me to see. I'm sure there are stallions out there who would appreciate even that amount, if you give it to them wholly. As for not having foals, well, that mattered little to me. I still got married, even if it wasn't the ideal scenario. You're barren. Blossom whispered, her eyes surprisingly wide. I am. It is something I would prefer not shared. But I know a secret of yours, so I figure it's only fair, is it not? Blossom's ears twitched and she hung her head. I don't understand. Why do you and Nav trust an undead abomination? Aren't you worried about me? Of course I'm worried about you, dear. Just look at this place. It's clear you aren't doing well. You dearly need some help to get back on your hooves. Luckily for you, Nav seems to be wonderful at helping others. Between the two of us, we'll have you right as rain in no time. And you, trust me? Blossom whispered. Hardly. I just barely met you, didn't I? Ours is an alliance of convenience that I believe will quickly blossom into a wonderful friendship. Trust will build over time, as it does in all relationships. But if you're asking if I'm worried about you hurting me or anybody else, I'm not. You've been the captain for a while now and you've had those fangs even longer. If you were hurting ponies, I would have heard about it by now. If you haven't started yet, I don't see why you'd start now. I was so afraid when you saw me last night. I thought I wouldn't live to see another moonrise. When I saw Nav in here, I thought for sure he had been sent to do it. Why would the princess have you killed? Fleur asked. She knows about your condition, does she not? It's supposed to be a secret and I'm never supposed to get blood from unwilling victims. Notice how she avoided lying, I said, butting in. What she said was true, but Celestia actually didn't know Blossom was a vampire. She avoids telling an inconvenient truth by answering questions Fleur didn't ask, answers that made the inconvenient question irrelevant. Is that what you mean by speaking around the truth? Taya asked. Sure is, I said with a nod. Since we both shut up, Fleur continued. Well, if it's that relaxing each time, you'll always have a willing victim here. Though I guess I wouldn't be a victim then, would I? Either way, you have nothing to fear from me. A small smile grew on Blossom's face. So it seems Nav surprises me yet again. Never once did I expect Fleur-de-Lis to visit my home and offer me blood. He certainly does seem to make miracles happen. That said, if you have a moment, I'd like to discuss him, or her. He doesn't seem to be taking to the change all too well, Blossom said. But then, who could blame him? No pony, of course. But since we're both her friend and we're both working to become closer to each other, I think it would be wonderful to brainstorm ways to help her adjust. That sounds dangerous. Nav's very spiky about some things, or so I've heard. We'll need to tread carefully. I think we needn't worry over much, Fleur said with a grin. She may pout at us a little, but I doubt she'll do much else. At this point, our human realizes that friends are necessary in Canterlot. Luckily for her, she's picked some of the better ones. So, my first thought is that we need to debut her, so to say. As in, make everyone aware that he is now a she. Well, we can't just put a notice in the papers. Word of mouth will only spread so far, though at this point everyone in the palace knows. Oddly enough, everyone in the palace also knows exactly what she looks like under all her clothing. Apparently she answers the door nude sometimes. That doesn't surprise me in the least. Well, I won't ask her to walk around the city in the nude. If she wears clothing all the time, I'm sure there's a reason. That said, I would like to add a few dresses to her wardrobe. And if we could somehow convince her to wear one at a party, that would let everyone in Canterlot know, Blossom said with a nod. It'll filter out from there, not that it matters much elsewhere. The problem will be convincing her. Well, you're a vampony. Could you, mind control her? Maybe. I have been able to before, but I have a sinking suspicion it was because I was allowed to. That said, I wouldn't. If Nav isn't comfortable wearing a dress, I wouldn't make her. I do think it would be fun to get back at her for calling me adorable all the time, but not that way. Wise. She might be upset with you when it wore off, anyway. We'll have to resort to emotional manipulation, then. I think I have something that would work, but I'll need to consult with my husband. Manipulation. Of course. I guess you could also call it asking her a favor to help me accomplish something important. So I guess maybe calling it twisting her hoof is better than manipulation. Either way, I will need your assistance with the matter. Could you survive an evening with Nav at a party? Yes, but I don't know if we'd let the other guests survive. Spare me. The next time Nav is in town, I'm going to host a very special party. All you need to do is ask her to join you. I'll talk to her after that and do my best to get her to wear a dress. It shouldn't be difficult. Nav may be wily, but she seems so easy to lead around that it's almost boring. You really aren't making me feel better about helping you, Blossom slowly said. We're trying to help her, not manipulate her or lead her anywhere. We're trying to help her by leading her to the ideal solution, Fleur said. And since Nav is stubborn, our help has to require manipulating her. Otherwise, she'll refuse and we'll be back at the beginning. I just see no reason to prettify our intentions. But rest assured, those intentions are solely pure. So you say, Blossom slowly replied. Your heart isn't beating like a liar's, that's for sure. Very well, then. If it will help Nav adjust, and help me get out more, I'll get her to join me. Perfect. You two will make the perfect couple on your first date. Blossom's mouth had time to drop before the memory ended. So, remember that time I said she was manipulating you? Taya sweetly asked. I gotta agree with her on this one, I said. Helping people usually does require manipulating them in some form. That said, I'm not sure getting me to wear a dress in public was a good thing. The party in question was interesting, at least. Gord said you hate dresses, Taya said. So I doubt it was a good thing. I doubt the pageant is a good idea, either. Probably not, but I've already agreed. That was before I had any idea that becoming male might be possible. I don't intend to go back on my word, but I'm done with the frou-frou nonsense after the pageant. As long as we can still match outfits sometimes, Taya said. I do kinda like the idea of dressing up with mommy. We can talk about it later. So what's the takeaway from this, aside from that Fleur was manipulating me or that she was willing to use mind control to get her way? For one, the fact that Blossom was not, Hope said. Fleur may have sought underhanded means of helping you, but Blossom was always more honest, open, and direct. Fleur had the upbringing of a wealthy Canterlot noble, I said. She's probably been manipulating people since she got her cutie mark and came of age. It's all she knows. As long as her motives involve helping me, I'll do my best not to let it upset me. Is Blossom even a noble? Taya asked. She's not, thankfully, I said. And I kinda hope it stays that way. No offense to Blossom, but I don't want a vampire to get land. Thankfully, she doesn't seem overly inclined to do so anyway. Why wouldn't you want that? Taya asked. They live forever, I replied. That means they can accumulate land forever. To an enterprising mind, a little bit of investment turns land into a lot of wealth. Before the coma, I was never really planning to change the world that much. But now, I see that I already have. So my plan is to start obtaining land and developing it. If I'm going to be someone powerful in this world, I might as well see what I can do about becoming the most powerful. So, you don't want Blossom buying up all the land because you want to buy up all the land, Taya said. Basically. Except a lot of land out there is unincorporated, so I could probably just claim it and build on it. Since Moonbeam has essentially already abandoned most of her morality to create a massive eugenics program, marrying her means I'd have access to it. She's already created 3 different breeds of changeling, but she isn't taking it nearly as far as she could. If I have all the time in the world anyway, I might as well have a few pet projects. What's eugenics? Taya asked. A topic for another time. Basically, I might become a supervillain after we leave the coma. I hope you're okay with that. Oh, that's a good thing. It means Luna, Kot, and I collect the whole pool. Wait, what? I said. We had a bet going. A few of us thought you'd immediately kill yourself when you got out. Some thought you'd become a shining beacon of righteousness. The 3 of us figured you'd probably turn evil after everything that's been done to you. I really do hope so, I've been looking forward to it. You're the best filly ever, I said, leaning down to nuzzle her. Hope growled in jealousy. Suck it, fake me. Taya said, jumping up to hug me. Don't be mean, I said. I didn't push her down, but I also didn't hug her back. So yeah, Blossom's a pretty good friend and definitely someone I'm happy I met. Her belly is cool, but still well worth rubbing. What do you think of how Fleur calmed Blossom's fears? Hope asked. It was pretty well done, I said. Fleur's excellent at telling people what they need to hear. That comes with being good at manipulating them. Blossom was very nervous and Fleur soothed her like a pro. Wait, I had a sudden weird thought, Taya said. You bleed every month, right? Don't ask questions you don't want to know the answer to, Taya, I said. She looked up at me, face aghast. My dirty grin met her gaze. After a few seconds, she shivered and let me go to drop back down. She took a step back, looked up at me, then quickly looked away and shivered again. I hope we all learned a valuable lesson today. That's so gross, Taya groaned. I'm cool with it, Hope said with a shrug. So, do you have any thoughts on Fleur's plan to debut you as a woman? Like I said, the party was all right. I understand what she was trying to do. I don't necessarily agree anymore that it was the right thing, but I still understand. Now that I have a possible lead on how to turn back, I'm a lot less worried about it. Cool. Then I have one last thing to tell you, but I'll have to charge you a belly rub for it. Deal, I said. Do your best to make it look as enjoyable as possible. Obviously, Hope replied with a giggle. There's no point if it doesn't make her as jealous as possible. The real Taya scoffed. Hope summoned an ottoman and hopped up on it to present herself. The cute little filly looked up at me with an adorably hopeful expression, just begging to be treated like the cuddle slut she was. Take it like the good little filly you are, I said, carefully stroking her. Why yes, Mommy, she whispered, biting her lower lip. That made it feel a lot more awkward all of a sudden, for some reason. I grinned and bore through it, hopefully getting Hope addicted to my hands. It's so good, Mommy, she moaned, starting to squirm. This is ridiculous, Taya said. I never look like that. This is exactly how you look, I said. So get a good eyeful, Taya. This is how adorable you really are. Now then, you're getting your belly rub. What's the last thing you wanted to tell us? Oh, that. Hope said, one of her back legs starting to kick. I just wanted to tell you that I tricked you into giving me a belly rub. I pulled my hand away and used it to thump her nose. Ow. That was mean. You should know by now that we can't hide any of these things from you. If you ask for takeaways, we gotta give 'em. Little brat, I said. Taya, bully her. Enjoy your belly rubs while they last, harlot, Taya said. When we get out, I can still get them all I want. But you won't exist anymore. Oh boo-hoo, we knew what we signed up for, Hope said. And I don't have anything else for you. Awesome. I guess we're good to go, then. As you wish, my guide said. We thankfully left the moldy room behind. End chapter 197.